Welcome back to Mark's History Channel. Imagine waking up in a thriving medieval city. The streets are crowded with merchants. Blacksmiths hammer iron in their workshops. Children play in the market square. Church bells echo across the rooftops. Life feels normal. Now imagine that within a few years, nearly half the people around you will be dead. Your neighbors, your friends, your family. Entire villages will disappear. Cities will fall silent, and the world will never be the same again. This was the Black Death, one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. A catastrophe so devastating that it reshaped economies, transformed societies, challenged religious beliefs, and changed the course of history forever. Between 1347 and 1353, millions of people across Europe, Asia, and North Africa would perish. But how did it begin? How did it spread so quickly? And how did this disaster help create the modern world? Today we're uncovering the story of the Black Death, the pandemic that changed the world. Let's begin. To understand the Black Death, we first need to understand the world it entered. The early 1300s were a period of growth. Europe's population had expanded dramatically. Cities were becoming larger than ever before. Trade connected distant regions through roads, rivers, and sea routes. Markets were busy, ports were crowded. Merchants traveled thousands of miles carrying valuable goods. But beneath this prosperity were serious problems. Most cities were overcrowded. Waste often filled the streets. Animals lived close to people. Clean water was limited. Sanitation was poor. Disease was common. Europe had also recently suffered through the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317. Years of terrible weather and failed harvests left millions weakened by hunger. Many communities never fully recovered. People had no idea that an even greater disaster was approaching. The Black Death was caused by a bacterium known as Yersinia pestis. Today, we understand how it works, but medieval people had no idea such organisms existed. Most historians believe the disease originated somewhere in Central Asia. For centuries, it survived among wild rodent populations. Normally, outbreaks remained limited, but the 14th century was different. Trade networks had never been larger. The Silk Road connected east and west through thousands of miles of trade routes. Merchants moved goods between civilizations, and hidden among those goods was something deadly: rats, fleas, and a microscopic killer. The plague had found a pathway across continents. As trade expanded, the disease moved with it. Fleas fed on infected rodents and absorbed the bacteria. When infected rats died, the fleas searched for new hosts. Sometimes those hosts were humans. The plague slowly traveled westward along trade routes. One important event occurred in 1346 at the port city of Kaffa on the Crimean Peninsula. The city was under siege. Historical accounts describe a plague outbreak among the attacking Mongol forces. Some reports claim plague victims were catapulted over the city walls. Historians continue to debate parts of this story. But what is certain is that merchants fleeing the region carried the disease toward Europe. The pandemic was now moving faster than ever. In October 1347, merchant ships arrived in the Sicilian port of Messina. What greeted local residents was horrifying. Many sailors aboard the ships were already dead. Others were desperately ill. Some could barely stand. Others were covered in strange swellings. The ships were ordered away, but it was already too late. The disease had entered Europe. From Sicily, it spread rapidly. Italy, France, Spain, England, Germany, the Low Countries, Scandinavia. Within only a few years, nearly every corner of Europe would be affected. Trade routes that once brought prosperity now carried death. No kingdom could stop it. No city could escape it. The disease appeared in several forms. The most common was bubonic plague. Victims developed painful swollen lymph nodes known as buboes. These often appeared in the groin, neck, or armpits. The swellings could become enormous. The second form was pneumonic plague. This infected the lungs. Victims coughed violently and could spread the disease directly to others through the air. The third form was septicemic plague. The bacteria entered the bloodstream. Many victims died so quickly they barely had time to understand what was happening. Symptoms included fever, chills, weakness, vomiting, headaches, and extreme pain. Death often came within days, sometimes even faster. To medieval people, the disease seemed unstoppable, and in many ways it was. Medieval medicine was completely unprepared. Doctors did not understand bacteria. They did not understand infection. Many believed disease spread through poisonous air. Others blamed unusual planetary alignments. Some believed the plague was divine punishment. Treatments varied wildly. Bloodletting, herbal remedies, burning incense, special diets, prayers, none offered meaningful protection. As the plague spread, physicians became increasingly desperate. Many doctors themselves died while treating patients. Fear grew everywhere, and answers remained elusive. To understand the human experience of the Black Death, we can turn to one of the most famous eyewitnesses. The Italian writer Giovanni Boccaccio lived through the plague in Florence. His descriptions remain among the most powerful accounts ever written. He described a city consumed by fear. Neighbors avoided one another, friends abandoned friends, families sometimes deserted sick relatives. People became terrified of human contact. According to Boccaccio, many homes stood empty. Entire households vanished. The normal bonds that held society together began to break apart. Imagine walking through your town and seeing locked doors everywhere, shops abandoned, church bells ringing endlessly, the smell of death lingering in the air. For millions of people, this was everyday reality. As the death toll rose, panic spread across the continent. People searched desperately for explanations. Some turned to religion, churches filled with worshipers praying for salvation. Others blamed minority groups. Rumors spread quickly. Fear often led to violence against innocent people. At the same time, governments struggled to maintain order. Trade collapsed. Food shortages appeared. Many farms were abandoned. The social fabric of Europe began to unravel. The world people had always known seemed to be disappearing, and still the plague continued. The scale of the catastrophe was staggering. Florence may have lost half its population. Paris suffered enormous losses. London experienced devastating mortality. Entire villages disappeared forever. Fields went untended. Homes stood empty. In some regions, 1 out of every 2 people died. Historians estimate that between 25 and 50 million people perished in Europe alone. Worldwide estimates often exceed 75 million. Few events in human history have ever matched such destruction. The Black Death became one of the deadliest pandemics ever recorded. As cities searched for solutions, new ideas emerged. Authorities noticed a pattern. Ships often brought disease. Some ports began requiring arriving vessels to remain isolated before entering harbor. In Venice and other trading centers, ships sometimes waited 40 days. The Italian phrase 40 giorni means 40 days. From this practice came the word quarantine. Although these measures were far from perfect, they represented a major step forward. For the first time, governments began creating organized public health responses. The foundations of modern disease control were being laid. The Black Death transformed society. With so many workers dead, labor became scarce. Surviving workers suddenly became more valuable. Wages increased. Peasants gained greater bargaining power. Landowners struggled to maintain their estates. The traditional feudal system began to weaken. Economic opportunities expanded. Social structures shifted. The balance of power changed. Europe after the plague looked very different from Europe before it. The pandemic had reshaped the continent. Many historians believe these changes helped create conditions that contributed to the Renaissance. As society evolved, education gained importance. Trade recovered. Cities grew stronger. Art flourished. Science advanced. Innovation accelerated. The Black Death was a terrible tragedy. But it also became a turning point. The world that emerged from the disaster would eventually produce some of history's greatest achievements. Interestingly, people living through the pandemic rarely called it the Black Death. Many referred to it simply as the Great Mortality. The term Black Death became common centuries later. Historians debate its exact origin. Some believe it referred to dark discolorations that appeared on victims. Others think it symbolized the darkness and devastation the plague brought to Europe. Whatever its origin, the name remains one of the most recognizable in history. The Black Death did not completely disappear after 1353. Outbreaks continued for centuries. Major epidemics struck Europe again and again, yet humanity slowly learned. Medicine advanced, public health improved, scientific understanding expanded. Today, Yersinia pestis still exists in some parts of the world, but modern antibiotics make it treatable when caught early. The lessons learned from the Black Death continue to influence how societies respond to disease. Its story remains as relevant as ever. The Black Death killed kings and peasants, rich and poor, merchants and farmers, priests and laborers. Entire communities vanished. Millions of lives were lost. Yet from the devastation emerged a different Europe. A Europe transformed economically, socially, and culturally. A Europe that would eventually give rise to the Renaissance, scientific discovery, and the foundations of the modern world. The Black Death was more than a pandemic. It was a turning point in human history, a catastrophe that changed the world forever. Thank you for watching Mark's History Channel. If you enjoyed this journey into history, please leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another adventure into the past. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.